Internet, and welcome to another episode of My Cool Friends. We go live every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If this is your first time joining us today, then may I say hello, how are you doing? We can find all of our previous episodes down over on our YouTube channel, and we are also over on the Facebook and the Twitter. Many of you are joining us on Facebook today, and might I say hello? There's punch and cookies in the doorway where you first found us. Don't worry, we have a steady supply of punch and cookies, all for your viewing pleasure this evening. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us today. She is a best-selling author. I know because I knighted her personally in the pre-show. She is also the guiding force of helping women find their journey in not only overcoming their limiting beliefs, but also on a path of healing. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome, with homemade sound effects, Miss Amanda White!
Hello. Yay! Thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been looking forward to this for such a long time because my husband Marty's been on here a couple of times and I've been so jealous. And I'm like, Ben's gonna ask me one day to be on this show, and here it is. And I'm so excited to share like my journey through healing and how I've been helping women just all over the world heal. So yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, Marty has been on the show, and he's been on our other show for many a game show winnings.
Yes.
So I just imagine you in the background, like, what is Marty doing with that?
No, I'm actually watching it and I'm answering the questions because or I'm sitting under the desk and I'm like, let me see, what are the options, and I'm like, all right, I have to be on My Cool Friends so I can get invites to these really cool games that are played on Wednesday nights. And so yeah.
So that's how I get Marty to lose. Is all I need to do is just invite Amanda, and then his knowledge center is just taken out.
Yep. That 1 versus 1,000, or what was it? 1 versus 1,000 or 1,000,000 or some game show. We would play that thing, and he would lose every single time.
1 versus 100.
Yes, that's it. It was a long time ago. I was in college, but I used to whoop that butt.
I love that show.
So I'm looking forward to getting an invite to the next one that you have. So yeah,
it's in the work. Like all you guys that showed up are like, it's in the works to come back, and I'm not sure exactly how this works, but I've seen like Jackbox has some new games out, and one of them involves like this like gigantic roulette wheel. That involves like the wheel of uncertainty.
The wheel of fortune, maybe, right? And so that leads into kind of what we're talking about here tonight.
It does. Like, it's almost like I actually script out this show.
But yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while, especially since I started my own podcast, but it's no longer going now. But I mean, beside the point.
I have a podcast. Yeah. Like, it's not going anymore. Oh, poo.
Well, the direction changed. What can I say? The direction changed. So back to something new.
Speaking of directions that don't make sense in segues, but that's okay. Amanda, we haven't gotten a chance to like sit down in so long, and so I look forward to just hearing about like all these directions that have like been going on and whatnot.
Yeah.
You have been on this path of what I like to call healing. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those words that gets tossed out, and then you throw it in a room of 7 people, and then it means something different.
Right.
So what exactly, like, you describe yourself as a healer. What does that mean? What does that vocabulary word mean to you?
It means it's someone that can really help you identify the things that are holding you back. And what I mean by that is like, as we go through everyday life, there are things that like attach to us, what like super negative, especially in, you know, these times or whatever. So like, by being the healer that I am, I have a gift of being able to help you interpret the things that are holding you back to help you get to where you want to be. And that's something that I throw around a lot, especially when I wrote my first book. But it was very centralized, the journey that I was having to go through to go into remission from endometriosis. And and so like that's just where it all began. And the healing is self-love, it's self-care, it's taking care of yourself first and putting yourself first before everything else.
And like I know everything that you're saying to be true.
Yeah.
Of like, oh hey, take care of the temple before you take care of
exactly
like, all of these other things.
Exactly.
But this is one of these things, knock on wood, that is like, you know, we can sit here in our computer desks and talk about it, and yet doing them is much harder than than saying them here on a show and putting them into practice. So I want to throw I want to throw the ball at you for a moment, if I may.
Okay.
You know, when you touched a little bit about like the negativity in life. How exactly can someone identify the negativity? When they've like, how can someone exactly identify the negativity? Because I find that in most cases we've been living in the negativity for so long that it has almost become a part of us. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. And I can totally catch that ball because,
all right.
Okay. All right. So the way that you identify it is how it triggers you, how it triggers certain emotions for you. It's like, all right, for instance, I'm going to go back to when I work back in an office atmosphere. So it was super negative energy all the time. Other people were getting recognition for the work that I was doing, and so that made me it made me, you know, it made me feel like I was nothing. It really upset me, like beyond the point of being pissed off, right? I just wanted to walk out. And it wasn't until I started to realize what certain things were triggering certain emotions that were coming up. And the same thing happens with maybe a toxic friend or a toxic family member, right? And it's people that you have to be around. Well, I say you have to be around them.
We're going to say that in air quotes.
You have to be around. And you don't know how to create boundaries for yourself, right? And you're always letting someone either like verbally attack you, or you might think that they're thinking a certain way. And those are a part of that mental clarity, like knowing that you are your best self, that nobody can, you know, control your health or your emotions except for you, right? They can throw all of these puzzle pieces at you, but it's up to how you're processing it, like in your mind and in your, like how you're intuitively feeling, like in your gut, like how bad something feels, and you're just sitting there taking it and it's attaching itself to you, instead of creating that boundary and knowing when to say, you know what, I'm gonna leave this situation for now, or I need to leave this environment and just completely cut myself off from it. And that's like one of the biggest parts of being able to heal, is by knowing your limits, like knowing how much negative emotions you can take in off of somebody else, like whether it be a family member or a coworker or someone on your podcast that causes a lot of anxiety for you. Maybe they have canceled coming on your show like a ton of times, and then you're like, okay, do I let this person come on here and do this, or am I just going to be like, you know what, thank you, but I already have someone else scheduled that, you know, and then you just kind of leave it at that. And that goes into like cutting cords. And we could talk about that at a whole nother time, because like cutting those cords is cutting out everything that does not benefit you. And that's like the easiest way that I've talked to clients about it and have trained through it myself, is like get rid of the things that aren't going to benefit your life moving forward. And something that we see every day is people live in the past, and nobody, or I say nobody, but they're afraid of what the future holds. And so you're always living in the now or the past. And by being able to identify what drives you and what pushes you like forward is how you're going to break those negative loops in your life.
Right. So. I think if I can jump on that point for a moment.
Absolutely.
I think that like it's interesting you see it as like, oh, they're living in now or they're living in the past. Mm-hmm. I often see it as that it's commonly viewed as a taboo to be selfish.
Right.
I'm saying selfish
yes.
this time with air quotes.
Yes. Right.
But like let's say you're in that like job experience, and I've had this happen to me personally. Mm-hmm. Like you're in that job experience and then you get fired. And when I was in this situation, I came home and I like played video games, and then like after a time period passed, I'm like, wow, why do I feel so much better? Like why did all of a sudden am I like getting these like few projects done that I like have procrastinated on for over a year? Oh my god, I was in a toxic relationship. And like maybe you had the foresight, like maybe you had the foresight beforehand in order to see that, right. Whether it be a family member or a work relationship. But it's considered taboo to just tell people to go yoink themselves and do something that is selfish, even though that's what you probably should be doing.
Right. Exactly. Because the thing, like someone take like a parent, for instance, like a mom, and they, like mom is supposed to be like Wonder Woman. She does everything. She's always there. Right. And so it's like, it's selfish of that mom. It's selfish of that mom to get a babysitter and take a day for herself. And when I mean like self-care, I'm not talking about getting a hot bubble bath, getting a massage, a pedicure, anything like that. Like self-care is things that you do for yourself every single day. It's a routine. It's so you get up, you eat breakfast, you drink water, you have these things throughout the day that is self-care. It's taking care of yourself before anybody else. And as a parent, the thing that your pride and joy are your kids most of the time. And so like they have to have all of your energy, right? And it's the same thing. Like you have the thing that needs your focus, but if you're not healthy enough to take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of your children or your fur babies or anything like that, right? And it's the same thing, like that self-care, that self-love. And it's just been ingrained, like by doing those things, you are so selfish because you're not putting X in front of yourself, like your job in front of yourself, your kids in front of yourself. But the thing is, say at a job, you can drop dead one day and they have you replaced the next day, right? And so like it's one of those things. It's like, wow, if you really think about that, I should really be selfish right now, right? Like
selfish.
Like they want the best version of me, right? Like if I'm sick all the time, I'm gonna miss work, right? If I miss work, then I don't get paid. If I don't go to work, get paid, then projects don't get done, bills don't get paid, right? And so like when those things start to happen, you're like, all right, where did I go wrong? Right? Like, where did I go wrong in this whole, like, why am I getting sick all the time? Why does this bother me? Why does this person hate me so much? Or why do they cause so much anger and anxiety towards me? Right? And half the time, it's not that they did something bad. It's just maybe they like to make themselves feel better by making you feel bad. And especially when it comes to being selfish, that's where friends come in. And so like people who have endometriosis, they a lot of time like schedules get changed. Things they have to cancel plans that they may have. And these friends, these toxic friends, are making them feel guilty because they're not able to come to a party or go on a vacation or anything like that. And
Mhm.
so that's where that whole selfish thing comes in. It's like, all right, well, if I'm selfish, well, I'm going to be the boss bitch of self care. I'm going to own this and I'm going to do it for me. And I'm not going to do it for anybody else because let's just face it, you're not going to be here to help me. I'm the only one that can help myself. So, yeah.
I got a couple of stories, and
Sure.
one of them has a question on there.
Okay.
So one story, like you said, the example of like, oh man, if I drop dead today, they would have me replaced. So we say that as like a joke.
Yeah.
But I actually, I used you and Marty know that I used to work at Target.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did have that happen. After I left Target, one of my old coworkers, he passed away
Oh,
on
no.
on the job. And one of my old buddies told me about this, and he was like shocked when he came in, and he was like, why are we open right now? And shortly afterwards he left because he got the reality opening of exactly what you're talking about. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, why am I here doing what I'm doing for people who would have me replaced so quickly?
Exactly. Exactly.
Go,
And
go
that
go ahead if you want to ping pong off of that.
So, yes, I do, because let's just face it, like the events that have happened in the past 2 years, it isn't a great example of this, is people going home and everything. I was one of those people, right? I got sick and I was like, you know what? I know why I'm sick. I was sick before, I was sick after, and everywhere in between. Why have I been so sick? I'm healthy. I work out. I eat right. I'm athletic. Like, what else do I need to do? And it all came back to that negative energy that I was going to every single day. And I kept going back, right? And I kept going back and I kept going back because there was some like the reward was the paycheck every 2 weeks, right? And you're like, well, I might as well put up with this if I'm just gonna get paid, right? But that's how a lot of people are when they don't care. They're just there for a check, right? And I don't want to be one of those people there for a check. But I worked really hard, but didn't get the rewards that I felt like I earned. Like I had put in a lot of work and earned those things. And I just got to the point where it was like, why am I still here? Like something's got to give. And so that's when I went to Funnel Hacking Live and I was like, all right, Marty, I'm doing something. I'm going to come, I'm going to listen to Jamie Cross, and I'm going to start my own like beauty products line for women who have hirsutism, which is male pattern hair growth, like due to hormone imbalances, right? And so I was like, all right, what can I call this thing? And that's where Sexy SheSquatch came in. That's where that name came from, was because like I wanted to create a product that helped women to feel beautiful and empowered and comfortable in their own skin, right? And so that's how it was. And it came because I was bullied growing up, having like these health issues that caused hirsutism, being called Sasquatch. And I hated myself. I was bullied over it. We get bullied every single day. It feels like when you're on a job, unless you have really embraced yourself, your self-love. Like you love yourself. It makes you kind of, you're so vain. Like you have a mirror in front of your desk, and it's like, no, that's not it at all. I'm very confident. I'm very, it's empowerment, right? And that's something that you lose within the crowd, especially when it's covered with so much negativity and toxicity. It's just, there's no way out. And it's that spiral, that endless spiral that keeps you falling back to where you just can't get out of. You're that crab in the pot that's trying to crawl out before you get steamed. But those little bastards in the bottom are just pulling you back in with them. And that's everywhere. Family, job, society, like it's all out there. And it's like, if you allow them to pull you back down into the pits of despair, then guess what? You're going to be part of the pit of despair.
I think it's worth like diving into that metaphor that you're talking about for a moment.
Okay.
For those that don't know, like it's a metaphor called crab mentality, where if you put a whole bunch of crabs in a bucket and one of them starts to climb out, the other crabs will actually grab the other crab that's like close to freedom down in with the others, as if to say, no, if I can't have freedom, neither can you.
You can't have freedom. Exactly. And it's the same thing. It's the pit of despair. And something that I do with clients is I do intuitive card readings, which is like tarot card readings. And something that when I know that they're stuck in a loop, on the cards, you'll actually see like swirls and stuff like come up like in their card readings. And I'm like, all right, I know what's going on. Like you have some negative attachments to you that you keep falling back into these old habits, or these same people are trying to just stick to you, causing you to stay the same old routine all the time. And therefore they're getting better, and you're staying the same or getting worse, because they're using your energy to get where they want to be, and you just get stuck in the rut. Like you're in that quicksand.
I'd like to ask you about that real quick. Because I've noticed that in others, and it's like hard to put into a metaphor. It's almost like the hamster wheel of depression, I would say.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, well, I'm sad, therefore I'm going to do this. And like sadness is going to cause me to do X. And that X thing is like, insert whatever you want, where it's like, oh, I'm sad, therefore I'm going to eat less. Oh, I'm hungry, therefore that makes me sad again. I'm sad, therefore I'm going to eat less. Like, maybe you should take a minute to like go and eat some healthy food. Like, and then it's that answer of like, oh, hey, maybe a self-care day would be good. But they, like, the person in question won't do that because they're stuck on that hamster wheel. And then it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this show, where someone is stuck in that hamster wheel, and it's hard for them to know that they need something, because that idea or that thing, not it doesn't necessarily have to be food in this case, or like it, because food's sort of an obvious thing, but that thing, that idea that they need is a foreign idea to them. Recently, for me, I'll tell my own story of this. Like, recently I just got out of debt, and one of my friends asked me, like, thank you. Like, one of my friends asked me, like, oh, how does it feel? And like, does it feel good? It's like, actually, no, it doesn't feel, I wouldn't say it feels good, because I was in it for so long that the feeling of being out of it now feels like the idea of being out of pain feels foreign to me. And I think that's like, when you have that like hamster wheel of depression that makes you make more depressive actions, or you have that circle of friends that it's like, hey, your 5 closest people make that make up your like decisions. Like, I think that's, I went on a tangent there, but I want to pass.
No, you're good. No, like that's totally true, because like everybody has a certain way of being, say, that emotional eater, right? When I don't feel good, or if I've had like the worst day, I'm like, yeah, I'm not cooking. We're eating pizza tonight, right? And so like, boom. But that's, everybody has, like, we are all human, right? Like, we all have like all these emotions, but it's like that hamster wheel, like, oh, I got out of debt. Well, how do you feel? That has to feel awesome. You got more money in your pocket, right? That's got to feel awesome. And then you're like, no, not really. Like, I was really worried about this and being able to pay it on time and to do this and do this. But in the meantime, like when I don't have to worry about that, it's like, oh wow, there's this that now can have my attention, or this or this. And it's like, all right, now I can invest this in one or two ways. I can throw it out and get all of these really cool new games and gaming systems and new gaming computers and new
Amanda, you know me so
hardware or
well.
whatever. I don't know. But like you could do that, or you could start investing in yourself. And I am an avid believer that video games are a way of self-care. And people are like, what? Like when I say that, no, like it's so true. It's like you came home, right? Like you didn't work any, like you came home after you quit or whatever, and you were like, hey, like I'm just gonna play, and you're like, whoa, why in the hell do I feel so much better? Like why is the world like lifted off of my shoulders and I don't have like you know what I'm saying? Like you don't feel so just like bound down into the ground. And you were doing something that you love to do. One, it had meaning to you. It helped you relax. It helped you to clear your mind. It helped you to feel joy when you haven't been able to feel joy. Maybe you didn't have as much time to play as you wanted to. Or maybe it was just like, I'm going to go into this virtual world and nothing is going to bother me. And then you realize like, wow, that thing that bothered me is not there anymore. So why should I even stress over it? So I really think that video games are a great outlet for self-care if you don't do it for 16 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? Like don't binge play and binge stream and that kind of thing often without self-care. Being sure that you're eating every 2 to 4 hours, where you're drinking water, set an alarm on your phone for stuff like that. And it's like it takes 21 days to form a habit. And so each day you can take one thing that you weren't doing so good the day before. Maybe it was, I'm going to drink one more 8-ounce glass of water today, right?
Mhm.
Or it's like 1%, it's one thing. If you are a person that is extremely overweight and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to take action. I'm ready to really dig deep and find out what got me to this point so I can heal who he or she is, so I can become my true self, so I can finally have my mind, my love, like my true self, to be out there for the world to make a difference in whatever way I choose to do it, right? And so that's what I do as a coach is I go in and I help to find out what traumas, maybe like say this person that gained over 300 pounds, which was almost me. About 10 years ago, I weighed 368 pounds and I'm only 5'1" and a half. I like to throw the half in there on my good no slouch days. But I dropped all that weight. And so like I walk around at like 150 pounds, whatever. And so it's like, whoa, how'd you do that? It took a lot of hard work and dedication, but I did things 1% better each day that I did it. And then when I started focusing in on, say, past traumas from like my childhood, when I started like, my parents were divorced. My parents divorced several times with their newer relationships. And so like that is a trauma. There was some other things like sexual abuse. I was being bullied. I was getting body shamed constantly at home, like all the time. And those things wear on you. You know why? Because when you start hearing something over and over and over again, you start to believe it. And that's the worst part. And so something that I really had to realize was, Amanda, you have the ability to create whatever type of life you want for yourself and for your family, like those closest to you. Like for me, it's Marty and I, right? And our fur babies. Like I have things that I want. I'm going to start doing like affirmations like I am great, like I am powerful, I am empowered. I help people do blank. Like I am a boss bitch. Like that it you create the things, like you become the things that you tell yourself that you are, right? And
Yeah.
so like and that's and the more you manifest those types of things for yourself, that is self-care. That is a way of doing self-care for yourself, because the more you say it, the more you write it, the more you believe it, the sooner it's going to come to you. And so as a healer, that's what I do, is I help to kind of chop down like the woods and open the path for you to get there on kind of like that fast track, so we can narrow it down and work on whatever's been holding you back from being your authentic self.
I
That's
want
how it does.
I want to talk about like both your authentic self, but also something that you touched on earlier, and that's like that at one point you were overweight, and I remember
Mhm.
hearing that like there's been a culture that's going around on the internet
Mhm.
called
Mhm.
fat acceptance,
Mhm.
which I think is like just like another version of what we talked about earlier, which is just like,
Yeah.
oh, there's a problem, and there's this
Mhm.
group of people that say like, oh no, there's not a problem right now.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
like, oh, you're beautiful just the way you are. No, there's a
Right.
problem. You're overweight, and there's not a lot of old fat people around. And
Exactly.
yeah, and so that's I think is something that like just a group of people who have said like, oh no, there's not a problem right now. There's not anything that needs to be addressed, but
Right.
there is.
There definitely is, and something that you see, you don't know where that weight's come from, right?
Right.
And by saying, oh, accept who you are beautiful the way God made you. Well, when you were born, you didn't weigh 400 pounds, right?
Right.
You had to get there by doing the things that you do every day, whether it be the way that you eat, by the way that you either move or exercise, or whatever. Like even stress causes so much weight on you at also,
Right.
because that stress, I mean, it's a whole nother level, because stress makes your hormones go crazy, like absolutely crazy. And when that happens, your body doesn't know what to do with the water that you drink. Like even as simple as water, it doesn't know how to flush it the way it's supposed to. Like say, oh, I'm gonna have a cheat day, right? Like say you've been eating pretty good. I say pretty good. You haven't gone out in like 2 weeks, so you're pretty good. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to have this cheat day, right? Well, if you, what I don't like about those cheat days is it's like, all right, well, you you're not at the place where you need to be, and the choice that you chose for this cheat day is just going to stick to you, because your body doesn't know how to process it the way that your body was built to do things on autopilot, right? Like our body heals itself. It can regrow certain things by itself, right? Without having any surgery. So like when somebody was like, "Oh, I'm big, I'm proud, I'm beautiful," right? Well, I was big, I thought I was proud, but I sure didn't feel beautiful. Like,
Hmm.
and this was like, I had just gotten married, and it's supposed to be that newlywed time in a marriage, and I felt ugly. I didn't have energy. I didn't want to be seen in anything other than really ginormous clothes, like much less any other time. And so I was always very self conscious. I thought all of my ideas were crap. And I've submitted, like, I have submitted something to be patented, like a boxing glove to be patented. Like, I know I have like these fantastic ideas, but during that time, there was so much brain fog that I couldn't function. I couldn't go to the store and buy groceries without like being out of breath or needing to take a nap before I left the parking lot. And it got that bad.
Hmm.
And so I'm a 8-time all-star athlete and a collegiate athlete, and I allowed myself to gain almost 300 pounds because of being depressed, because of hormonal imbalances, because of other health issues that started to come alive with these um, autoimmune diseases and everything else that is attached to systemic inflammation, which that's what endometriosis is, and that's what obesity is, and that's what a lot of these other like MS, like all of those things are systemic inflammatory diseases, and they can be controlled. So I don't agree with the bigger, the better, the more beautiful. Like, more power to you. I wasn't happy that way. Um, like my quality of life was so low. Like I hated everything, everybody. I didn't want to go anywhere, and I'm extremely adventurous. Like I love to go and do stuff, right? But I had no passion to draw. Like I'm an artist. I draw, I write, and I used to sew a lot, and I just stopped. I stopped doing all of that because I didn't care. I had lost my identity because I feel like I lost my identity in my weight.
So
But
let's talk about that identity for a moment.
okay.
Because you talked about the authentic self.
Hmm.
And you also mentioned that, like, hey, we're not the same person. When,
Right.
when we're born,
Hmm.
when you've also evolved when you
Right.
left that job that was being very toxic.
Right.
What exactly is an authentic self? Because you could also say that, oh man, in a parallel timeline,
Hmm.
what would have happened if you never left that job? Then, like, would that have been your authentic self? Like, how exactly how do you define the authentic self, you personally, Amanda White?
The Amanda White that you see today would say that the authentic self is the person that you have, that you love, that you believe in.
Mm,
The person that nobody can change your identity, but you know who you are, and you know your boundaries, and you know your passions, and you love things and you don't like things, and there are things like that is an authentic self to me, because you know you, like, there nobody knows you better than yourself. And when you are in those pits of despair, you don't have an identity. You become what you surround yourself with. And I know you've heard this 1,000 times, like, all right, you are what you eat, right? You become those gossiping people around the water hole in the office, right?
right.
Like, you become those gossiping people, you become toxic people. And so you lose your authentic self by morphing into someone else, because you have lost your identity. You have lost your purpose. You have lost your authentic self. And that's the most beautiful part about like being an entrepreneur. Like, you don't become an entrepreneur because you wake up one day and you know what? I'm going to become a billionaire today, right? I'm going to be doing it
Mm-hmm.
with YouTube videos and doing scripts or copywriting or whatever it is. Like, something had to give you the passion to do those things so you can keep going. And then how it helped you to become your authentic self, to help someone else find their identity the same way. It's kind of how in the Jim Edwards Method Premium stuff, like that's where we do like the avatar, right? Like you create your avatar for your businesses, and that's how it comes up like that. Like you are technically creating your in-game character and how you want to um, spend the rest of your life, and how you create your own Sims world with you, right? That is your authentic self. That is the person that you created, that you can be your best self no matter what, and be able to control the external influence that's trying just to get at you.
I think this is a metaphor. You can quote it from me, but I came up with this
Okay.
just now. So I'm gonna indent this. I'm gonna quote this. I'm gonna use this as my forever quote when someone asks me this question.
Uh-huh.
The authentic self is
Mhm.
like water. When you pour water will always take the shape of its container. So if you pour water into a cup, it will take the shape of the cup. But is water a cup? No, that's
No.
stupid. Water will always shape the environment around it. Water will always create a river and erode the land around it, because water is always water. That's what the true authentic self is.
Water is water.
Water
But
is water.
who is Ben? What is Ben, right?
But,
Or
yeah.
what is Amanda? What is anything, right?
Right.
It's what you created. It is what you manifest it to be. It is what you create it to be. And that's the most beautiful part about healing too. Because not only are you healing from the inside and starting to love yourself, you're starting to have clarity, and you're able to open your mind to bigger and better and brighter things. Now, I'm not talking about shiny object syndrome or anything like that. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like truly, truly believing in something that's going to build something for you instead of building something for somebody else.
But I think it's worth talking about shiny object syndrome for a moment. Because I think that plays a part into this. Because I remember when I had this discussion before, it's like, oh, who's the authentic self?
Mm-hmm.
And because when we're young, it's like, I don't know who I am yet, so I'm gonna identify my entire personality with a brand name. And like, raise your hand if you like remember this phase in all of our lives. But then we're like, when we get older, it's like, all right, I'm out of this brand name phase, so now I have to figure out who I am. And oh boy, now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. And that's like writing like the episode of SpongeBob called Procrastination, where he just writes, all right, and it's like, now we're open to all these different possibilities. And then it can just be like, all right, who am I? And then we're just sit here with a blank page. And yet I think that's both the difficulty and yet the answer to this question. Does that make sense?
Yep. It's like, who am I? Who is your who? In like business terms, it's like, who am I? Right? I am a coach. Right? I am a healer. Okay. Who is my who? People who are women who are stuck in that limiting belief tunnel, like hamster wheel. They have some past traumas that we need to heal, and we're going to move forward, right? Like, those are the people that I talk to. Those are the people, they're entrepreneurial people. Like, they have businesses, but something is holding them back, right? And it's like, all right, who am I? All right, what is your mission? What is your mission in life, right? So how do I get from point A to point B, from point B to point C? It's kind of like the Mario world, like where you have to get through one, and then the path opens up. And if you get really good points there, you get a bonus that's in wherever else, right? It's the same thing. Like, our life is literally a game, and it should just be gamified at all times, in my opinion, because it's all mind games. It's all mind games. It's all mind games and how you perceive it.
But I remember, like, I was too entrenched in that mentality of oh yeah, it's just like a video game. And then, like, I thought, like, the answers would come to me in tutorial mode. It's like, oh yeah, this is how you play. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's an old, like, it's like, it's more like Minecraft, where, like, all right, you're tossed out there and then you can go and do whatever you want. Wait, how do I play? No one's going to tell you.
Right. You have to figure these things out for yourself. But by having, I'm always an advocate for any type of coach. Like, anything that that you're not able to do for yourself, or know how to do, then find a coach, someone that can help you. Excuse me. Let me rewind that. Find a coach.
Sorry, there's no editing. This is live.
Yes. So rewind that. This is what I mean. So find a coach that has been exactly where you are right now and have achieved where you want to be. That is the best way to find the coach that's perfect for you, is someone that has already achieved the things that you wanted to or want to, but haven't been able to figure it out yet. And that's what my book was about, was how to get through point A to point B. But for those that needed the little extra push, there was coaching there to kind of shuffle through all the BS, all of the misinformation, all of the things that were confusing on the the journey to healing. And so that's the biggest point here. It's like, all right, well, let's take the Mario thing, for instance. You can go down those little pipes, right? And go down and get a whole bunch of coins and lives or whatever. And then it's like, okay, I got to skip like this much of the map because I went down that tunnel, right? It's the same thing that we go through in life. It's like, all right, I'm going to get coaching to help connect with spirit guides, right? Like I'm getting coaching right now. I have a mentor that has helped me to just be able to help other people in a whole nother way that I never thought that I would be able to, right? And so by being able to help people in the not so formal way, like this is, it's always been there, but like say like your psychic mediums, right? Like they help you connect with loved ones or pets or whatever, right? So you have psychic mediums, you have people who read tarot cards to find out your past, present, and future, or am I going to get this job or whatever. Like there are ways that you can connect with the universe to help you heal. Because guess what? Everybody is made up of energy, and we put water and food and stuff in our body to create energy. And when you have this energy, you can do anything. You can do you have infinite amounts of power with energy. And when you don't have energy, there's nothing.
And you mentioned a little bit about your book. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So the name of my book is Surviving Endometriosis, the 6-step breakthrough system to win back your life from endometriosis, even if you still experience painful symptoms after surgery. And this is a disease that there is no cure for it. And I have something on my wall. It says spiritual healing is your magic pill. And that was one reason why I'm taking, instead of my business being like an endometriosis coaching business to help women heal, because they've already had surgeries, they've already had all these hormone replacements, they've already had all this stuff, and they're still having to get surgery every year or every other year or every 6 months, right, to help control the spread of this, instead of going in and focusing in on the problem. And it's all a Band-Aid. And so what I realized was like I was given all of this stuff, like I was giving my best stuff, like everything that I coach with one-on-one clients, I was giving to this community for free. And I was like, wow, this isn't, this is there. Everybody just, they don't want to put in the action steps to actually heal and control anything. And I was like, all right, I've spent a whole year doing, like, building all of this for everybody that's in this community. And I've put together things that they said that they wanted. They wanted like those, those Fun Fit Fab boxes that you can get in the mail, like those seasonal boxes. So I came up with these Endo battle boxes, and it had like this really cool, like Stranger Things type, it was so cool. And I launched it, and it was a complete dud. Like there were people on the wait list to get it, and nobody signed up for the membership. I did t-shirts because they were like, Amanda, we need some bitchin' t-shirts for this community, not just those boring awareness shirts. And so I did that. And so like I spent all of my time trying to help people heal, but they weren't ready. They aren't ready for that type of healing because they don't trust it. They're like, oh, you mean to say I caused this in my body? That's bullshit. So I'm not gonna listen to you because you're crazy, right? I can tell you, I can count like on both hands how many times I heard that. It was like, I didn't cause this, blah 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 blah. You might not have caused it. It could have been a genetic thing that you got because my grandmother had it, but my mom didn't. So it was one of those things. It's like, oh, you could get it you can get it genetically, but the other things that come along with it, that those inflammatory conditions of inflammation, chronic diseases, they're stemming from all of that stress and that neglect from certain things. And that was the biggest issue. And I was like, you know what? We're going to start healing from the inside. And maybe if people are like, oh, yeah, I did have some traumas, or, oh, yeah, I really do talk bad about myself to myself, and I started believing that I was selfish, or I don't deserve this, or I don't deserve love, or I'm doomed to flip burgers the rest of my life. No, those are limiting beliefs. Like, the sky is your limit. Literally, like, it's the limit for you. There's endless possibilities that can be unlocked by just focusing in on that spiritual health and healing. And that's what I do.
That's like that's a challenge in unto itself, to like help people realize, like, oh, this this was a domino effect caused by something else.
Mm-hmm.
And we touched on a little bit earlier, like when we were talking about weight. It's so hard to say, like, oh, hey, like that, like this was a domino effect in my life, because it's so much easier to say, like, oh, hey, there's no problem here, and it's it's the external fault, like it's something else, like that's easy. That's so easy, and I think that's what most people will do. That's why it's common to see that, and why you had why you have that experience of, like, oh, what, this is why I've heard this 1,000 times. Like, this is the belief that people have adopted. But it's so much harder to say, like, oh, hey, there's a problem in my foundation I've built that might need some tuning up.
Exactly. Like, you hit the nail on the head with that. Like, I can get Thor's hammer right now because it's sitting right over there. But that is exactly right, because I mean, it's easy to put blame on something else,
right?
Than it is for you to take ownership of something, right? And it's like, oh, I'm gonna let them take the blame on this one because I didn't do that, right? And it's like, yeah, you did. Like, yes, you did. But that's also the thing of, like, being able to call your own bullshit at the same time. Like, can you? Can you say things like jokingly and be like, ooh, I got them, right? But when it gets to a certain point where you start believing that thought process, right? And then that opens up a whole negative loop on yourself. So your health goes to crap. Like, your relationships go to crap. Your business, your job goes to crap. Then your life sucks.
Right.
And you don't know who you are anymore. Like now you are, because of, you are depressed and you are angry and you couldn't keep up with the lies anymore. Those lies then became the manifested person that you were putting the mask on for the world to see.
There was a TikTok I saw that I scrolled by that said, the court gesture is the only one who's allowed to tell the truth. And this was a comment on, like, comedians nowadays. But this is also true in, like, in the form that we're talking about, is that the court gesture is the only one that's allowed to tell the truth, because he can tell jokes about the king. And if he was to ever tell a joke and the king was to say, you can't say that, send him to the dungeon, then immediately the king would be seen as a tyrant by everyone. And that, like, that's true in the form of a king, but it's also true, like what you're talking about, in the form of an individual person. Is that if you are not able to see, like, the jokes about your own faults, then wouldn't that make you a tyrant in your own form of your own little world?
Absolutely. It absolutely does. Like, how is that anything to your true self? Right? Like, it's a lie. It's a lie that you tell yourself. And it's a lie that it's like, oh, I really need to, like, not tell that lie anymore because it's starting to come true, right? Like, like, that's just how it comes up. Like, they say karma come and get you. Karma will come and get you in some way. But what I was getting back to was like with all that negativity that you're putting out there and all those different masks, how are you supposed to know who you are? Like, who is Ben?
Right.
Who is Amanda? Like, hell if I know. Like, I'm a persona for this. I have a persona for that. I'm like Roger from American Dad, right? Like, I have a persona for everything, right? And if I don't let my bitchiness out, it turns to bile and kills me, right? And so it's the same way. Like, everybody has to have ways that they control their anger, or they have to be able to identify certain triggers in their life that is causing these negative emotions and negative thought processes. And the way to do that is by stepping back and really taking in the things that are around you. Like, you can have like a little notepad or whatever and be like, yep, this bothers me, and it gives me this feeling. Like, seeing this person and hearing their voice makes me, like my mom said, like when we whined when we were younger, like, oh my gosh, if you don't stop, your whining is making me want to throw up, right? It's the same thing. Like, oh, this person really makes me want to throw up, so I want to stay away from this person. Or this person makes me feel really bad about myself all the time. Like, I'm going to really step away from this person and eliminate that from my life because I don't have time for that crap. And that's exactly like what this all leads back into, like having all these different personas that we're used to having until we don't have them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is the authentic self. When you don't have it anymore, you're like, all right, this is my best one yet, and it ain't going anywhere, right? And that is the person. That is the social media person. That is the content creator. That is the person that is your coach. Like, that's who they become, right? And so that person that has all those personas, it's like, you think in the like psychology world, like they would think that those people were schizophrenics, right? Or paranoid schizophrenic if they were like, crazy about being scared and all that other stuff, just paranoid about everything. I could say that Marty is paranoid because I'm just kidding.
You can say whatever you want about Marty.
He, like he's this big conspiracy theorist, right? And like the more you tell yourself these stories, the more you start to believe them, or that same thought process. And it's like, it's still a limiting belief regardless of like how bad it's making you feel or how confused it's making you feel, right? Because those thoughts are not clear. And so
I got a good limiting belief story for you, and I think you'll get a good kick out of this. I was working with someone at one point. It was like the late night shift, and we were working in a yogurt shop, and they say to me, like, I think I'm being haunted. I think a ghost is haunting me, like, and follow me throughout like all of my jobs. Like, why do you say that? And they said, like, if any place would be haunted, it would be this place. Like, why? Because the pipes make a lot of funny noise? Yes! You mean, like, they do all the time? Yes! It's like, I don't think you're being haunted. I think you are just paranoid at many other like different sounds going on. I think you are want to be haunted by a ghost, so you have a story to tell, and you are looking for an excuse to be haunted.
It could be a way of getting attention.
Yeah.
By creating a story to get attention. However, I have the ability to both see and hear and feel spirit. And so, like, that's one of the things that it was like, well, maybe he did, Ben, and you made him feel really bad about it. And then, but the way that you say it, it's like, wow, I can remember, like, flushing the toilets, like, in the wintertime growing up, and, like, the pipes would, like, clack, like, in the wall. And, like, being in Mississippi, like, pipes don't freeze often, like, I mean, it just don't. That's why, like, when we had the ice storm back in the beginning of the year, like, streets were popping up because pipes were busting all over the place. And it was like, man, if I just listened to that tapping of those darn pipes, I would have known that obviously it cannot take 32 to 15 degree weather.
I say that because like I watch all like the paranormal ghost shows.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And like
yeah.
the first
Me
thing
too.
is like check the piping. It's like, are you sure it's not just the piping?
Right, exactly. No, like there's just different things. Like there's so much stuff out there, especially like with the paranormal stuff and everything. It's like, it's a lot of it's like made up, just like the personas that we put on in life, right? It's like, oh, what's entertaining? What's entertaining today? Like, who am I today?
I remember I heard this on a podcast, and like now it's becoming even more true for me now that I do like video stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this was a lot more interesting 15 years ago, before you could just edit and put whatever you want into footage.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, okay, if no one's found Bigfoot and everyone has cameras in their pocket now, I don't think he's out there.
It's just like aliens. Are there aliens?
I imagine so, because like they're not coming here. There's nothing interesting.
Or they're here and they're like programming. They're like, okay, don't do this. Okay, don't do this, right? And then they're like, well, they're out to kill Bigfoot and to prove that he's real. So let's just beam him up onto our planet. We'll let him like do what he wants to do and be his old hairy, sexy self and just run through nature, making it its you know what.
The aliens are real. They're just all hiding in Florida.
Yeah, just hiding in Florida. Yeah, or your next door neighbor, whatever.
Like, Ben has exposed our hiding spot. We need to kill him.
Oh no, we gotta go. And it's like, all right, change that persona. Let's just body hop, right? And that's exactly what our health does when we're around toxic people. Like, it body hops. It skips from one person to the other. The people's energy skips. The way that their thought patterns you can start taking on other people's thought patterns. And it's just crazy. It's like in women syncing up that time of the month. It's that same thing. You surround yourself, it starts to sync up. And you start to believe it. And then you're like, oh, we're soul sisters, right? No, it doesn't work that way, So, I mean, it's that same thing. It's just over and over and over and over again. And the whole point and the way that you end up being your authentic self, being the best version and being able to show up at your best self every single day is by being able to cut out all of those cords, all of those toxic people, all of those toxic environments that make you less than what you truly are. And that's the bottom line.
Miss Amanda,
yes,
where can we find you? Where can we find your book? Where can our lovely listeners continue to follow this amazing conversation?
Awesome. So you can find me on Facebook. You can my Amanda White, or you can go to Sexy SheSquatch on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram, Sexy SheSquatch. And I'm soon going to be on Twitch with Marty. We're going to do a couple stream. So Coach SheSquatch on Twitch. And I also have a website. So something that I've put together is a list of all of the things that I have personally used in healing, whether it be supplements, whether it be my book is on there. You can find it on Amazon. And it has all the tools that you could possibly need, male, female, brother, sister, whatever is on that site. And so that's sexyshesquatch.com/hidden access. So yeah. And you can also find that on those pages.
Ladies and gentlemen, go follow Amanda. Go check out her book. Go and watch her Twitch streams. This has been another fantastic episode of My Cool Friends with our special guest, Amanda. We will be back next
you.
week for another fantastic episode every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic weekend and be sure to stay safe and stay healthy. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.